The orange hues of the setting sun painted the sky in strokes of fire and gold, casting long shadows across the floating isle where the cloud shepherds had gathered. The air was thick with anticipation, a tension that hummed beneath the soft rustling of sentient clouds swirling lazily overhead. Sylvie stood at the center of the circle, her usual mischievous spark tempered by an unfamiliar solemnity. Her wild copper hair, usually a vibrant banner of her rebellious spirit, now caught the dying light as if aflame, framing a face etched with vulnerability and resolve. For weeks, Sylvie had wrestled with the ghosts of her past, the exile from her home sky kingdom, the whispered accusations of recklessness and disobedience that had followed her like storm clouds. But tonight was different. Tonight, she would lay bare the truth of her journey. Not as a defiant mage seeking redemption alone, but as an ally seeking to bind herself to the fragile future of the Sky Kingdoms. Elara stood nearby, her grey eyes steady and encouraging, a calm anchor in the swirl of emotions. Beside her, Kellan's weather-beaten face held an inscrutable expression, the weight of countless storms behind his gaze. The other cloud shepherds shifted uneasily, whispers rippling through the crowd like distant thunder. Sylvie took a deep breath, the scent of ozone and moist earth grounding her as she began. "I come before you not only as a mage of wind and lightning," she said, voice steady though her hands trembled slightly, "but as one who has walked a path of exile and regret. My quest for lost magic led me away from my people, and in my stubbornness, I have caused pain and fear among those I once called kin." She paused, meeting the eyes of several elders, their faces a mosaic of skepticism and curiosity. "But in Elara, I found not only a friend but a purpose. Together, we seek to rekindle the ancient magics and forge a path forward, one that honors the balance between creation and destruction. I ask for your trust, not blindly, but as a promise of my commitment to this realm and its people." A hush fell over the assembly. The sentient clouds overhead responded. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying faint whispers of approval from the sky itself. Then, without warning, a gust swept through the gathering, the charged scent of ozone filling the air. Sylvie lifted her hands, and with a flicker of electric green and silver light, she wove a delicate pattern of wind and lightning that danced among the clouds, illuminating the twilight with a soft, crackling glow. Gasps and murmurs rose from the crowd. The display was not merely a show of power, but a symbol, a weaving of elemental energy in harmony with the sky realm's fragile balance. Kalon stepped forward, his piercing blue eyes reflecting the stormy hues above. "Sylvie's magic is a force of nature," he said, his voice gravelly but clear. "It is wild, yes, but it is also a vital thread in the tapestry of our world. If we are to face the chaos ahead, we must embrace all who seek to protect the skies, even those who have walked through shadow to find their way back." The elders exchanged glances, and one by one, nods of assent rippled through the crowd. Mira, always a beacon of optimism, stepped forward and clasped Sylvie's hand warmly. "We stand with you, Sylvie," she said, her voice bright despite the fading light. Relief and gratitude washed over Sylvie's features, a smile breaking through the years of guarded expression. Later, as the gathering dispersed, Elara approached her, the soft murmur of clouds a gentle backdrop to their quiet conversation. "You were brave," Elara said simply, eyes shining with respect. "Not everyone could have done that." Sylvie nodded, her usual mischievous glint returning. "Neither could you, standing beside me. I think we make a good team." The cool evening air was filled with the scent of rain yet to fall, and as they looked up, the first stars began to shimmer faintly through the thinning clouds. Nearby, Kalon shared tales of his own youthful trials, his voice weaving lessons of resilience and hope into the night. Together, beneath the vast sky, they forged a new bond, one tempered by past mistakes, but strengthened by shared purpose. The path ahead was uncertain, the storm spirit's threat looming ever closer. But for the first time in a long while, the cloud shepherds felt a fragile, flickering hope ignite within their hearts. And as the isle settled into the quiet hum of night, the winds whispered promises of change and renewal, carrying with them the echoes of a redemption long sought and finally embraced. The journey was far from over, but with unity rekindled and trust restored, Elara and Sylvie stood ready to face whatever storms the sky might send next. The morning light cast a pale silver glow over the floating isles, painting the clouds in hues of soft lavender and rose. Elara stood at the edge of the ridge on her home isle, her grey eyes scanning the horizon where the sky met the distant clouds. The air was unusually still, the customary gentle hum of the sentient clouds subdued as if the very breath of the sky had held itself back. A thin, unnatural mist curled quietly around distant cloud formations, barely perceptible but unsettling in its silence. Elara's fingers twitched with an old instinct, a feeling that something was amiss. The storm spirit Velthor had been bound anew, the floating islands were healing, and the old magic rekindled. Yet the sky whispered warnings only the most attuned could hear. She inhaled deeply, tasting the faint metallic temps that had begun to lace the air like a hidden thread woven into the fabric of the atmosphere. Turning away from the ridge, she made her way towards the council chamber where Kalon and Sylvie were already gathered, their faces etched with concern. The chamber, carved from a massive crystallized cloud formation, shimmered softly under the diffuse light, its walls humming with residual elemental energy. It was here that the leaders of the cloud, shepherds, and elemental allies convened to discuss threats and strategies. Kellen's voice was low but firm as he spoke. The elemental readings from the northern sky caves show anomalies. We've encountered disturbances unlike any before. Sylvie's emerald eyes flashed with a mix of frustration and urgency. It's subtle, slithering beneath the surface like a shadow in the wind. Whatever it is, it's trying to avoid detection. Elara stepped forward, her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. Could it be remnants of the old magic, unstable and stirring again? Or something new, born from the fractures in the sky? The room fell silent, each member pondering the implications. The fragile peace they had fought so hard to reclaim seemed suddenly more tenuous. Myra entered quietly then, her presence a soothing balm amid rising tension. She knelt beside a restless cloud, tethered gently near the chamber's entrance. The cloud shimmered erratically, its usual soft glow flickering in uneven pulses. "It's unsettled," Myra murmured, reaching out to touch the cloud's ephemeral form, like it senses something, a whisper or a shadow. Elara watched as the cloud's gentle hum broke into faint whispers, unintelligible yet filled with a palpable unease. The sentient clouds were the sky's first line of sensing danger, their disquiet a silent alarm. Later, as dusk draped the sky in deep indigo, Velthor emerged in a swirling tempest of lightning and shadow above the highest floating isle. The storm spirit's form was both majestic and terrifying, crackling with raw power yet tempered by the new pact. Its eyes, vibrant with electric blue light, locked onto Elara with a mixture of warning and hope. "The balance is fragile," Velthor's voice echoed in her mind, a tempestuous yet weary sound. "Darkness stirs beyond the edge of the sky. We must be vigilant, for the harmony we cherish is easily broken." Elara nodded, determination kindling within her despite the looming threat. She knew that the road ahead would demand every ounce of courage and wisdom she possessed. The unseen dangers were no longer whispers. They were shadows gathering strength, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the days that followed, Alara and her allies intensified their watch. Scouting parties ventured deeper into the cloud labyrinths. Elemental mages like Sylvie experimented with new wards and charms, and Kaelin drilled the shepherds in defensive formations. The floating isles thrummed with a tense energy, the skies alive with both hope and warning. Through it all, Alara kept returning to the ridge, seeking solace and insight among the clouds she had come to understand so intimately. She spoke softly to them, feeling their moods and listening to their ancient songs. The clouds whispered back, fragmented messages of caution and encouragement. One evening, as a violet storm brewed far beyond the eastern horizon, Alara stood alone, watching the first drops of rain fall like silver tears from a gathering tempest. Her thoughts drifted to her father, the mysteries of the shattered continent below, and the fragile bond they now shared with Velthar. The sky was a realm of endless wonder and peril, a delicate dance of creation and destruction. And Alara was its shepherd, its guardian, standing at the edge of the unknown with a heart full of anxious hope. The storm might come again, fiercer and more relentless than ever before, but so would she and those who stood with her. The balance was fragile, but it was not yet broken, and Alara would fight to keep it so, whatever the unseen threats might bring. As the final light faded, a sudden flash streaked across the sky, brief, yet charged with a power that sent a shiver down her spine. The unseen threat was no longer a distant whisper. It was coming, and the sky would never be the same. To be continued. The air was brisk atop the high floating isle, where Alara, Kaelin, and Sylvie had gathered under an expansive sky smeared with the soft hues of an impending dusk. The wind tugged persistently at their cloaks, carrying with it the scent of ozone and distant Raynan, unspoken reminder of the volatile forces they sought to understand and ultimately master. Before them stood a weathered stone altar, scarred by time and etched with ancient sky runes, whose meaning only a few still remembered. Kellen's weather-beaten hands traced the carvings reverently, his voice low but unwavering as he began to speak. "These runes," Kellen said, his piercing blue eyes shadowed by the approaching night, "are remnants of a time when the sky was not as fractured as it is now, when the cloud shepherds and elemental beings stood united against the fury of a storm unlike any other. It was a conflict born of fear, betrayal, but also of courage and sacrifice." Alara stepped closer, her grey eyes reflecting the storm-laden clouds that roiled in the distance. She felt the weight of Kellen's words settle on her shoulders, mingling with the stirring anxiety that had taken root in her heart since discovering Velthar, the storm spirit. Sylvie, ever restless, cracked her knuckles and flicked a spark of lightning from her fingertips, the tiny bolt illuminating her copper hair in a fleeting blaze of electric green. "You speak of a battle that sounds like a warning," Alara said softly. "One we cannot afford to repeat." Kaelin nodded solemnly, "Precisely why you must learn from it. The mistakes of the past fear dividing us. Alliances broken by suspicion, these are lessons etched as deeply as these runes. We face a similar tempest now, but unlike before, we have the chance to choose unity over division." Sylvie's eyes gleamed with a spark of defiance. "And if old ways stand in the way, if the sky kingdoms cling to their fears and refuse to change, then we remind them," Kaelin replied, "that the sky itself is a force beyond any one kingdom or fear. It demands harmony, balance, and above all, resilience." Elara closed her eyes briefly, drawing a steadying breath. The storm spirit's volatile presence hummed faintly in the air, a constant reminder of the stakes at hand. She thought of the sentient clouds she tended, their moods shifting like the winds, capable of nurturing life or unleashing devastation. She thought of her missing father, whose legacy she sought to honor with courage rather than doubt. "Tell me more of this battle," Elara urged, her voice gaining strength. What was it that turned the tide? Kellen's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the last light of day kissed the edges of distant clouds. It was not just strength of arms or magic. It was trust. Trust forged between shepherd and storm, between beings who had long been wary of one another. The cloud shepherds learned to listen not just to the winds, but to each other. It was a fragile alliance, but it held. Sylvie stepped forward, her tone softer now. Trust is not given lightly, especially not when old wounds run deep. "No," Kalen agreed, "but it can be earned through deeds and endurance. The storm spirit you face now is not merely a threat. It is a reflection of the sky's own turmoil. To quell it, you must understand it, as difficult as that may be." A sudden gust swept over the isle, stirring loose leaves and carrying whispers from the clouds above. Elara felt the charged energy in the air, a delicate balance between creation and destruction, much like the ancient tales Kalen recounted. The lessons of the past were not mere stories, they were a map for the uncertain path ahead. As night deepened, the trio settled around a small fire, the flames casting flickering shadows that danced like restless spirits. The violet and gold sky above mirrored the complexity of their mission, beauty intertwined with menace. Words gave way to thoughtful silence, each contemplating the challenges to come. Elara felt the steadying presence of her mentor beside her, the warmth of the fire echoing the growing resolve within. She knew the road ahead would test every shred of her courage and skill. Yet, fortified by the wisdom of those who came before, she was ready to face the storm. The lessons of the past were clear: unity in the face of fear, resilience amid chaos, and the bravery to seek understanding where others saw only destruction. Elara's journey was far from over, but with Kellen's guidance and Sylvie's fierce spirit, the clouds above seemed less daunting, more a canvas upon which a new tale of hope and strength could be painted. And as the fire crackled into embers, Elara's gaze lifted to the stars, beginning to pierce the twilight. The sky whispered promises of change, and with them, a call to rise. The next chapter of the Sky Kingdom's story awaited, and she would be ready to write it. With a final glance at her companions, Elara murmured, "Tomorrow we prepare. The storm is coming, but so are we." The wind answered, carrying her words into the vast expanse, an oath woven into the very fabric of the sky. And so, beneath the watchful stars and the shifting clouds, their resolve solidified, the lessons of the past lighting the way forward. The battle for the sky's future was only just beginning. The horizon stretched endlessly, a canvas painted with the soft hues of dusk, as Elara ascended the winding paths to the summit of the highest floating isle. The air was crisp, tinged with the scent of impending rain and the faint temps of ozone, a scent she had come to recognize as the breath of Velthar. The storm spirit now bound, not as a prisoner, but as a guardian. Her grey eyes, sharp and reflective like the skies themselves, scanned the heavens. There, swirling amidst the gathering clouds, the tempest spirit began to take form. Velthor's presence was both terrifying and beautiful. The tempest coalesced into a luminous vortex, dark clouds swirling with electric life. Lightning crackled gently within, its soft hum a paradoxical lullaby that filled the air with raw potential. The storm spirit's eyes brilliant arcs of flickering light with Elores, an unspoken communication passing between them. In that moment, the weight of fear that once shackled Velthor seemed to lift, replaced by a shared purpose. Elara felt her heart quicken, a mixture of awe and cautious hope blooming within her. "You have come far, Elara." Velthor's voice rumbled like distant thunder, layered with ancient wisdom and latent power. "The skies whisper your name, and the clouds bend to your will." The voice was neither wholly human nor elemental. It was the sound of the storm itself, a living entity with depths she was only beginning to understand. Elara stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace and partnership. "Together, we will watch over the sky realm. The balance must be preserved." The storm spirit's form shimmered, lightning pulsing in response, like the beat of a great heart. "Balance," it echoed, a fragile tether between creation and destruction. Days later, within the ancient sky cave nestled beneath the floating isles, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Sylvie's wild copper hair caught the flickering torchlight as she traced her fingers over the elemental runes etched into the cavern walls. Kalon stood nearby, his weather-beaten face creased with the wisdom of countless storms endured. "These relics," Sylvie murmured, "they hum with a magic long forgotten, the very fabric that once bound Velthor and the elemental forces." Her eyes sparkled with the thrill of discovery. Kalon nodded gravely. "It is knowledge that can heal or harm, depending on the hands that wield it. Elara must tread carefully." From the shadows, Velthar's voice resonated, a comforting presence amid the ancient stones. "The sky is a delicate web. Each thread must be honored." Together, the group pieced together fragments of lost magic, unlocking secrets that deepened Elara's connection to the clouds and to Velthor. The storm spirit shared visions of the past of betrayal and sacrifice that had led to its binding, illuminating the complex history between the sky kingdoms and elemental beings. On a day when turbulent gusts roared unexpectedly across the floating isles, the sentient clouds stirred with unrest. Above, a swirling mass threatened to unravel the fragile peace. Elara, standing firm with Velthor at her side, reached out through the currents of air and magic. Her hands moved with fluid grace, weaving through the storm's chaos. Lightning danced gently from Velthor's form, threading silver through the restless clouds like woven silk. The tempest softened, sighing as harmony returned to the skies. The clouds, sensing the renewed balance, pulsed softly with sentience, their moods shifting from agitation to serene calm. Elara's heart swelled with a profound sense of empowerment, not merely as a cloud shepherd, but as a guardian of the realm. News of this transformation spread swiftly. Within the council hall of the Cloud Shepherds, the chamber filled with a hushed crowd eager to witness the bond between Elara and Velthor. The storm spirit's presence radiated a calming yet formidable aura, dispelling lingering fears. "Behold, the guardian of our skies," Elara announced, her voice steady and resolute. "Velthor no longer threatens us, but stands with us." Murmurs of awe and cautious approval rippled through the assembly. The political factions, once divided and fearful, found new ground for unity in this demonstration of trust and alliance. Yet, beneath the celebration, Elara recognized the weight of responsibility now resting on her shoulders. Velthor's power was immense, and the delicate balance they maintained could shift with the slightest misstep. She knew the path ahead would demand wisdom, courage, and unwavering vigilance. As twilight deepened into night, Elara stood once more upon the highest isle. The stars blinked awake, mirrored in her bright grey eyes. The storm spirit's swirling form hovered beside her, a guardian watching over the skies they both called home. "The journey continues," Velthor whispered, lightning flickering softly. Together, we are the watchful breath of the heavens. Elara smiled, the wind tousling her dark hair as she stepped forward into a future uncertain yet filled with promise. The sky's embrace was no longer a prison or a battlefield. It was a sanctuary, shaped by hope, resilience, and the enduring bond between a shepherd and a storm. And so, under the vast expanse of swirling clouds and starlight, a new chapter for the Sky Kingdoms began, one where creation and destruction danced in harmony, watched over by the spirit of the storm and the courage of the cloud shepherd. But even as peace settled, distant rumbles echoed faintly beyond the horizon, reminding Elara that the balance, though restored, was never permanent. The skies held many secrets yet, and her watch had only just begun. With a breath of wind and a spark of lightning, the guardian spirit's eyes glowed brighter, a silent vow that no storm, no matter how fierce, would catch the sky realm unguarded again. The wind swept fiercely across the jagged edge of the floating isle, tugging at Elara's dark hair and the loose strands of her cloud-woven cloak. She stood silent and still, the vast expanse of sky stretching endlessly before her, a canvas painted with the soft blush of dawn. Below, the swirling mists cloaked the shattered continent, a forgotten world that echoed with ancient magic and lost histories. Here, high above the broken land, Elara felt the weight of her inheritance pressing gently yet insistently upon her shoulders. For a long moment, she closed her eyes and let the memories wash over her, the laughter of her father as he taught her to read the subtle shifts in cloud currents, the fierce storm that had claimed him, leaving a void in her heart and a spark of determination kindling within. The sky had always been their home, a realm of delicate balance where sentient clouds whispered secrets and elemental forces danced unseen. Now it was hers to protect. A soft voice broke through her reverie. Elara Kellen's presence was steady as ever. His weather-beaten face, lined with years of storms survived and battles waged. He approached with measured steps, the silver strands in his hair catching the morning light. The sky watches and waits. It will test you still, but you are ready. Elara turned to face him, her bright grey eyes reflecting both the sky's vastness and the storm within her soul. "I feel the weight of all I must do," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I will not falter. Not again." Kalen nodded, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. A leader is not born from certainty, but from resilience. Remember that even the fiercest storm eventually passes, leaving skies clearer than before. Together, they descended toward the island's heart where Mira waited, tending to the hearth with a gentle smile. The warmth of the fire was a stark contrast to the crisp morning air, a small sanctuary amidst uncertainty. Mira's eyes lifted as they entered, her presence a balm to Ilara's restless spirit. "The others are gathering," Mira said softly. "They look to you now, more than ever." Elara drew a deep breath, the flames casting flickering shadows that danced like ancient spirits around them. "I owe them more than words," she said, her voice steadying with resolve. "I will honor my father's memory not with lament, but with action." Night fell and the stars bloomed across the heavens as the floating isles prepared for the dawn of a new age. Above them, Velthor stirred within a roiling tempest, his lightning eyes flickering like distant beacons of power and promise. The storm spirit's presence was no longer one of menace, but of alliance, a guardian bound by a pact forged in trust and courage. Elara stood once more beneath the swirling clouds, raising her voice to the winds that carried her vow across the Sky Kingdoms. "I am Elara, daughter of the storm, shepherd of clouds, and guardian of our realm. With the strength of those who came before me and the unity of those who stand beside me, I pledge to protect the balance of our skies and the harmony of our people." Her words echoed through the floating isles, igniting sparks of hope and determination among the cloud shepherds and elemental beings alike. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with peril, but for the first time, the fractured sky kingdoms glimpsed the possibility of unity and renewal. As the first light of dawn bathed the clouds in hues of gold and rose, Alara felt the stirring of something newer. Daughter's resolve transformed into a leader's purpose. The sky embraced her, vast and endless, and with it, the promise of a future shaped by courage, balance, and the enduring power of hope. Yet even as the winds whispered their ancient songs, a quiet question lingered in the air. How would the fragile alliances hold when the true storms of destiny yet awaited beneath the horizon? The journey was far from over, but Alara was ready to face whatever came next. With the sky as her witness and the storm spirit as her guide,